Hey guys, not sure if this will work. Um, Trying to see how I can invite somebody. Give it a few minutes for people to get on. Looks like I can do it right here. I'm gonna bring on a guest. Slash, he invited me. Not quite. There it goes. All right, approve. Not sure.
All right. Hey, Brian.
All right. Yeah, we got it.
Sorry, it took a little bit to get it done. But,
Yeah.
I'm,
Let's see. I'm gonna try to share this out somehow. Quick.
yeah, I'll do the same, see if we can't get it. It's not
Yeah,
actually
it'll
on.
take.
I should have come in on my account, but that's okay. I'll do it next time.
That's all right. It
Uh,
I'm not the best at sharing it. Kind of need other people to share it, I guess. I'm not seeing
I'm,
the
I'm doing
it's
that
not
as we speak.
yeah.
I'm,
Hello from Ohio. Hey Ohio, Vicky, share this out. I live in Ohio.
we're, I'm I'm just sharing with a bunch of my group here. Then we can get it going.
What time of day is it there?
Here it's what time is it, ladies? Lunchtime, I think. 20 to 1.
Nice.
So
Nice.
you guys are what time is it over there? You guys are in the middle of the night, right?
It's almost like 10, I think.
Yeah, okay. I think we're I think we're good. Certainly I'm here with a couple of ladies that are making I'll put them on there. It's not actually where I live, but it's Jenny and Greta, and
Hi ladies.
they're actually making signs. I don't know if you can see it. They haven't started painting yet, but they're wanting to go to the American Embassy Monday here next week, and just show signs of appreciation for you guys that
That's
what you're
awesome.
doing because of what you're doing in the US. It's not a protest at the embassy. It's a hey, we love you at the embassy. And apparently, when you go anywhere near the embassy here with signs, a lot of police turn up. So I'm not quite sure how we'll go, but we
Yeah.
plan on doing that, and I'll release the detail of when that is later, so that we can people can get involved if they want to. But,
Awesome. Did you
I'm
figure
not
out how to
sure.
share this thing out yet?
I've done it with a few. I mean, we get some text messages, but it's not telling me there's too many on. So
Mm, I'm not
maybe
sure how to. I can't remember how to share it.
I think down the bottom of your screen, bottom left, I've got a share button.
Yeah, I don't. They didn't give me one. They don't like me sharing my message. Facebook been trying to shut me down for a while now.
I think I'm probably in the same boat soon. So
Yeah.
they, you guys have been doing good over there, and we've been watching you from here. It's been a real inspiration. But we can maybe what we'll do. I'm seeing people coming on, Brian. So the even though it's saying one viewer at the top, there's a bunch, must be a bunch of people on here because we're getting a lot of comments.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe I'll take this is Brian for those of you that are coming on. I'm Scott Russell. I'm in Canberra, Australia, and this is Brian. Do you want to introduce yourself, Brian, and maybe explain a little of what you are?
Yeah. Well, hi, all my brothers and sisters from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, or around the world. I hope that this
Yeah,
group grows to be people from around the world. My name is Brian Brase, and I'm one of the co-organizers of the People's Convoy taking place here in the United States. Coming on, hopefully here to help unify or help kickstart Australia, New Zealand to
yeah,
stand united with us at the same time while Canada regroups and hopefully joins back in the fight.
yeah, great. And this morning you read it. Well, we had a talk on the phone this morning, and then I know you read the email that I'd sent over to you, and I certainly appreciate that. since that time, the group has exploded. I mean, I think we've probably had.
I'll give you a heads up now. Get yourself some quality moderators, and
Yeah,
be prepared for the spam, because it will come, and you will have a lot. It will be difficult to control, and Facebook will delete your group if you're not careful on the comments and things like that that's on there. So they will delete this group if you let it get out of control. So you want to make sure that you're controlling the spam and the comments and the post. You know, I hate doing it, but you have to in order to keep the integrity of the group. But you're going to have to change it to where basically all posts have to be approved, you know.
yeah,
And then what our moderators started doing for the People's Convoy Facebook page is the most recent post, like the official post, they'll leave the comments on until the next post is posted. Then when they post the next one, then they go through and they turn the comments off on the old one, so you can no longer comment on the old post. And they were, I mean, the folks handling our People's Convoy Facebook page and our other socials like Telegram and all that stuff, they're working night and day to keep up with it. I mean, I think we're up over, I don't even know. I think we're up over like 225,000 people on our Facebook group right now, the People's Convoy. But your group's a little bit different here. This Facebook group is like representative of everybody around the world, it seems like.
yeah,
And to help get the message, it doesn't seem to be directed at just Australia or New Zealand.
correct.
Ours was directed pretty much at the United States convoy. So I don't know if it's necessary for you to do all of that, but I know here in the States we had so many people that were just posting stuff that was going to get us banned from Facebook.
So maybe we can talk later, and you might have an administrator that can just help me set up some of those safety features. I've tried to stick with just vision. I don't want political statements and that sort of stuff on there. Sort of removed a lot, but
as long as you stay to that, you'll be all right. As long as you can keep it that way, you'll be okay.
Occasionally one slips through, and just before we came on, one slipped through, and I don't even know how it got on there, but I removed it. So we really, this is about trying to, and we talked about this morning, the spirit of freedom that globally, Australia, Canada, really it all began in Canada. But, and I know the Canadian organiser, I saw the vision of her coming out on bail, and which is terrible, but there's the spirit of what's in Canada merged with the spirit of what's in Australia and New Zealand and the US, and it's a beautiful thing. Instead of being divided by our differences, it's actually our differences that have brought us all together, and that's something that's people don't quite get. Over here, we still have a lot of people that call it, oh, you're all anti-vax. We're not anti-vax. There's plenty of people here that are vaxxed. It's just about freedom. We want the freedom to choose.
They do that to us all the time. I mean, the media, everybody, they try to say that we're anti-vax. And the one thing that I express when I'm speaking to, whether it's the media or it's the crowd that comes out for one of the nighttime rallies, or we've had a couple big rallies. We had a few of them.
Yeah.
What I express is that, look, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a professor, I'm not a lawyer. I can't tell you whether the vaccine's safe or not. That's not my job to tell you whether it's safe or not. But I can tell you that as a human being on Earth, that you have the right as a human, your God-given rights, to stand against that vaccine. You have the choice. You should always have the choice. You have the freedom to choose. It doesn't matter whether you're an American or not. I mean, we are fortunate enough that we have the Constitution of the United States and our Bill of Rights. So in that sense, we kind of have a double layer. We have it as it's a violation of an American's constitutional rights, but as a human being on Earth, it's a violation of our human rights. It truly is a violation of it's a human rights violation on a global scale. It's going on all around the world,
Yes.
and that's why I've really tried to express that it's more than just an American issue. It's a world issue, and I'm really happy to see. I guess I'm happy, like talking with you earlier today on the phone. I was happy to hear that there is motivation in Australia and New Zealand to fight back. And your guys' protest or standing up doesn't make our news. We don't ever get to see that. Today, actually about an hour ago, I was going through your Facebook page and I was seeing all your videos, your live feeds from your countries, where they were protesting. I've never heard of that. I've never seen it. It doesn't show up on my news. You know what I mean? It don't show up at all. And I'm sure here in the United States, the People's Convoy probably isn't showing up on your news at all.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Right. It's barely showing up on our own news.
I was saying to someone the other day, they put the news on and they'll show a dog show that's up the road. And the dog can jump this high or something, and they don't. That's world news. It's like they've just lulled everybody to sleep, I think, and I think there's an inherent desire in everybody for normal. And so if you can present normal, they're happy. There's no problem here. And I don't think people appreciate what freedom is until they lose it.
Well, and that's the thing, though, is there's a lot of countries out there that don't even have the freedom at all to even stand up against it. Even just speaking against their government in any way will get them jailed or even executed in some places. And my hope is, look, I don't know what it's going to do, what we're doing on the other side of what we're doing right now in the United States, anyways, the People's Convoy. I don't know what the end results are going to be of this. But if at the very least, it can motivate other people around the world to stand up, or it can motivate more Americans to stand up, or at least to become maybe free thinkers, to see bigger picture, to understand that as a human being, you have certain rights that your government can never stop or take away from you.
Yeah.
I will consider that a win. I would consider that a win, even if it's just. I mean, at this point, I'm happy with 100 people around the world standing up more. 100 more people is a big deal, and the fight's never gonna be over. I mean, it's never gonna be over. Even if it ain't the vaccine, it'll be whatever's next. It'll be whatever's next. Freedom is something that you have to continuously fight for your entire life. And you have to teach your children to stand up for it and your grandchildren to stand up for it, and you got to teach your grandchildren to teach their grandchildren to stand up for it. And I don't care what country you live in. I don't care if it's North Korea and somehow you're able to see this feed right now. It is time that the world stands up for freedom. It's time that the world helps usher in a new Renaissance time period around the world, a Renaissance of freedom. We need a new Renaissance period, and it is the Renaissance of freedom. And it's important working with folks like yourself, with New Zealand and Australia, and my contact was Pat King in Canada. That's who I talked to quite a few times prior to them arresting him. We need everybody. And while it might be truckers, at least in Canada and here in the United States, that initiated, that stood up and started this, it's really about the people. And that's why we're, the People's Convoy. And I would encourage even New Zealand and Australia. Look, I don't care about no ownership of a name of anything. We have a logo. It's got a truck with a trailer, and on that trailer is the American flag on the trailer. Man, take that logo and put your flag on it. Call it the People's Convoy. There ain't no ownership of that. Everybody can use the People's Convoy, man. So, you know what? If Australia wants to have a People's Convoy, have a People's Convoy. Have every car, motorhome, motorcycle, truck, all involved, and travel across the country, stop in cities along the way, end in Sydney. I don't know where to end at, to start
Yeah.
somewhere and end somewhere, and work your way across that country, and have rallies along the way, have guest speakers. You know, there's pilots around the world that want to stand up. There's healthcare workers around the world that want to stand up.
Yes.
You know, it's not that hard to get these people involved. A lot of them are hiding in the shadows, waiting for the right person or the right group or the right movement to pop their heads up out of the shadows, out of the ground, and say, I'm with you. I want to stand with you. I've seen that a lot through this process. A lot of
I
people that I would have never imagined.
would have done it. No, I agree. I think actually there's more for us than against us. It's just the people that are against freedom have a big megaphone and a big stick. But I think that a lot of people, well, everybody's for freedom, really. Even the people with the stick are for freedom. And I know here when the authorities were abusing some of the people, I remember saying to them, you know, this could be your child at the end of that stick. You know, this could be your children. We're standing up for your children's rights to be free. And you might be working in that and having to make a living. I can't, you know, criticize them for what their convictions are. But I do think that mitosis is some big fancy word this friend of mine gave me that I'm like, he says, you know, mitosis, Scott, he said 2 turns to 4. It's when a cell divides. 4 turns to 8, 8 turns to 16, and it just goes. And eventually you start getting into big numbers. And he said, when something starts, the beginning of it is always smaller numbers. But as people start realizing it comes out and mitosis happens. I mean, today we had 800 members this morning on our group, and I think after our meeting this morning, it went to 1900 before our live discussion here. So mitosis has happened. It's already more than doubled, and it will double again, and it will double again. But it's not about our sites. It's about freedom doubling. It's about people getting the courage to stand up and talk. I tell people here, to be resistance doesn't mean you do violence. We don't want violence. To be resistance is to maybe just go out in your park and sit in the park. And I said, others will come out and you'll find that you'll be talking freedom. Maybe you're going to wear a hat. Maybe you put a sticker on a car. Maybe, I said, it's just doing the little things. If everybody does the little things, that's resistance. That's pushing back against the forces of darkness that would come in. And I tell people too that really God's on our side, because, you know, the Bible says that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. So when God's in us, there's freedom. If we are not for freedom, we're not for God. It's because it's His character, it's who He is. So I think people can say, well, freedom has to be my way. Freedom's not my way. Freedom is a freedom for all of us to be what we are on any given moment. And in that, there's obviously, as you would agree, Brian, there's respect of other people's lives. And that's what's happened here, is there's that global disrespect of everything and anyone that has a differing opinion or a different way of seeing life. And I think we all have a problem with that. Yeah. So as we look at the US, you know, you guys have kicked it into high gear, and seeing the images of the flag that you guys had there in Hagerstown, and all the lights and the horns and the songs that are now coming out on YouTube. And it's all just a beautiful thing to watch as everybody starts to express their freedom. You know, the artists are doing pictures, and like I said, the musicians, you guys have had the skydiver come out with his flag. That's resistance. And I'm talking to I'm calling Mike the Australian and New Zealand ambassador, the boots on the ground in Hagersville for us. And he's the one that organised you and I to talk. But I was saying, mate, see if you can get onto that parachute guy and have him jump out with a Canadian flag and a New Zealand flag and an Australian flag, and all come down together. You know,
that would be awesome.
Let's unite this thing, that the spirit of who we all are. Because when you cut, we bleed. When we cut, you bleed. And anybody that doesn't think that has never traveled. You know, here in Australia, people have, it's worldwide, I've traveled a lot of global opinions about Americans. But ultimately, what everybody thinks about America they copy America. So when Nike and Adidas and some of these brands are all over the world. They don't. If you don't like America, then don't wear American brands. Don't watch American movies. America has an influence, and that influence is freedom. You have the
Yeah.
freedom to be whatever you want to be in America, and that's what it needs to be here. And we love you guys. Appreciate it. I'm a dual citizen, so I am. I was born here in Australia, but I've spent nearly 20 years in the US. So I love
You've
America
seen
too.
you've seen this side of it. You've been here, you've lived it, you
Yes.
understand. I there's a nature with Americans that runs deep in their blood. You know, the freedom runs in your blood here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's something you're born with here. And we naturally will continuously fight for that freedom. Naturally. There's a lot of people, you know, lately, which I think they've been working hard generationally to try to dissolve some of that that patriotism that you're born with here. You know that
Yes.
you know. I think they've worked very hard in our schools to try and cut down that feeling of pride in your country or
Yes.
freedom or patriotism, and it's really sad, and that's something I don't know how you're structured there. So please, Australians and New Zealanders, please forgive my ignorance. I just don't simply know.
You're forgiven.
Never been there. Always wanted to go, but never been there.
We'll get you
Um,
over
yeah, if they let me fly.
it.
but
You
you
and me
know
both.
they yeah. Um, one of the things that I tell people here is it starts at home. Your freedom starts at
Yeah.
home. So teach your children about freedom. Teach them what it means to be free. Instill uh, instill those beliefs at an early age about freedom. And then, of course, start serving in your local communities. Work the soup kitchens, work the homeless shelters, work for the Red Cross, donate your time, donate money, donate goods, help families that had a house fire. Do things like that. Then start serving on the school boards. Start serving on your school board. Like for us, we have school
Yeah.
boards for our education. And, you know, and a lot of people are like, what's the school board going to do? Here's the thing. The schools are educating the youth, and the youth are the future is the future of our nation and the future of the world. So for
Yeah.
us with the school boards, you know, there's a lot of things that the school board is deciding as far as curriculum and what they teach or what they enact, like mask mandates at the school. The federal government and state governments here in the United States will threaten to pull funding from a school district if they don't do certain things. And so they almost bully you into um, following the federal government or state government's guidelines for education, or they're going to yank, you know, that funding. And so my thing is if you get enough people that believe in freedom or proper education without brainwashing, meaning you actually teach the facts of history.
Yeah.
2 + 2 = 4 instead of
Cool.
6 until they know better. You know,
Yeah.
like right now we have this issue where it's okay if a kid answers 6. You know, 2 + 2 = 6. That's acceptable until they know better. They say no.
Yeah.
It does not equal 6, and they're wrong. It equals 4. Like it makes me like look at adults
Yeah.
sometimes and be like, "You went to college,
Yeah.
or
I
for
know.
you got university? You went to university, really?" You
Yeah.
know,
It's true.
and so I think a lot of that needs to be reworked, and I think that a lot of like-minded individuals, similar to my belief structure or anybody's belief structure, but the basis being freedom and pride and patriotism into your country. You know, like you should be a patriot for Australia. You should be an Australian patriot that
Culture.
believes in your freedom and your country. And
True.
I think we have a situation right now, not just in the United States but around the world, where these countries are trying to have complete and absolute control of its people. And you know, when you start talking about that kind of thing, at least for the United States, the fact that they've gotten away with it this long is really a shame, because now you have generations of human beings that literally look at what we're doing as being a crime, or they look at it as we're extremists because we fly an American flag. Like, since when is it wrong to fly the United States flag?
Yep.
Like,
But
goodness,
you know,
Taiwan was walking around, Hong Kong was walking around
well,
with American flags as they were trying to stand against China, because the American flag is a beacon of freedom.
freedom. You know, Brian, on that note, when I know, because initially you see some of these things and you feel so overwhelmed. It's like, what can I do? You know, how do I change it? It's a whole world. There's a whole system against you. And it's so easy to be so overwhelmed that you become incapacitated and do nothing. And I think it's important that people understand there's always something you can do. Always. No, and don't ever underestimate your own abilities. And I think people feel like it's such a tidal wave of oppression. You know, I hope somebody can change it. I'll let Brian Brase change it, and Scott Russell could change it, you know. And it's really just the fact that, from what I understand of you, and I know I certainly am, I'm just a normal, common guy, that ultimately I kind of fell into this, and it's just, I wasn't looking to be, and I'm still not an activist. I'm just a lover of freedom. And I think as I love that, you just, you think, I got to do something. So you do something little, and then that little turns into something bigger, and then something bigger. And that's, I think, is it fair to say, Brian, I think that's what we want to encourage people. There's people that are in all sorts of places that may hear this recording. You have influence. You have something you can do. You have a next door neighbor that you can invite over for dinner. And when your next door neighbor comes over, you can talk about freedom and just say, you know what, these people are not crazy anti-vaxxers. In fact, many of them are vaccinated. This is about freedom. Who doesn't want freedom? This is not about a state narrative where the state can tell us what we should think, how we should think it, when we should think it. If you give up your freedoms, you never get them back.
No.
And I do believe that in the end, because history shows us, in the end, freedom wins. Because, like I said, God is with us. I don't know whether you want to comment on that, Brian, but my thoughts are to encourage people that here's a Brian Brase and a Scott Russell, two common, normal guys that are just prepared to open their mouth, put their face on there. God knows what will happen. If I disappear in the night one night, Brian, have a shout out there for me. Make sure they drag me out of wherever they've hidden me. And if it happens to you, I'll come looking for you the same way. But
let me make this very crystal clear. If all of a sudden I'm dead and they're claiming suicide, it is not true.
And it's true with me. It's not true.
I did not kill myself.
Correct. Same with me. I am happy to be alive. That's why I want freedom. If they claim that all of a sudden someone died and had a heart attack or whatever, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Do something.
Isn't it crazy though that you have to actually like specify that and say it? That's the world that we live in today, and it doesn't even matter what country you're in. You're in Australia right now. I'm in the United States, and we both have to say that crap.
So I had people saying to me, you need to be careful because ASIO is our Secret Service. Your Secret Service is on to you, Scott. And I'm like, well, great. I hope they are. If they're not doing their job. So, I think everybody that starts speaking should be looked at. As I said, but that doesn't mean they're going to be evil about it. But if they are, then you know, I still have to live by my convictions. But I know, what am I hiding? I love freedom. If I was doing something bad, then I would be scared. I'm not scared.
That's the thing is, you know, I'm not worried about being arrested or being criticized, because everything I'm doing, one, is legal in my country, in the United States. Everything I'm doing is legal. We are law-abiding citizens that are having a peaceful protest. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm exercising in the United States. I'm exercising my First Amendment right, along with many others that are in Hagerstown, Maryland right now. We are exercising our First Amendment right, and there is nothing they can do. The thing that I always say is, and this would apply in Australia, New Zealand, I believe. Always speak the truth, and always speak from your heart. Speak the truth, and from your heart, it makes it impossible for them to tear you down.
And I would add a line to that. When you speak truth and you always speak from your heart, you're in freedom. And when you're in freedom, freedom pulls in the free, and it pushes away the oppression. So I find with me, as I've spoken freedom, as I've opened my mouth, it's pulled in people of freedom. And they're beautiful people. They don't think like me, they don't look like me, they don't walk like me, and that's the most beautiful thing about them.
And the thing is, you know, at least here, we started in Adelanto, California, which in the United States, that's the way opposite side from where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah. More for the viewers. But I started in Adelanto, California with, and I say I, but I mean us. We, the people of the United States in this convoy, the People's Convoy, and all the organizers involved. But we started in Adelanto, California, and I remember showing up that night, and I saw like 5 trucks, and like maybe 10 cars, and a few campers, and I was like, oh no, you know, like here we go, like, you
this
know,
bomb, this tank.
Right. By the morning, though, I woke up and I stepped outside, and the parking lot was full.
Yeah,
and
wow.
I still didn't know how many we had. No clue. By the time we did a rally that afternoon before we launched everybody. That morning, I guess midday, we did a rally before we hit the road with the convoy. And by the time that rally was over, it was massive. And I don't even remember the total number that first day, but we rolled out and we had to ride these 2-lane roads out. And we worked with local law enforcement everywhere we went. You know, we communicated, we expressed that we were peaceful, law-abiding citizens exercising our First Amendment right. And so this convoy starts out, and I don't really know where it happened at, but it was like all of a sudden, every overpass, every exit ramp, on ramp, the sides of the interstate was loaded with people. I remember when we rolled into Amarillo, Texas, we got off the highway. They wanted us to stop and say hi, you know, and we pulled in, and I couldn't see a blade of grass. There were so many faces that you couldn't see any faces, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Like it was like,
you
got up to talk, and it was like a blur. I mean, there was just so many people, and it just continued to grow. By the time we got to Oklahoma, the Oklahoma State Police said that we were 7,000 vehicles long, and we stretched 30 miles. 30 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank God, hallelujah for that. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was nuts. I mean, it was wild. But what I'm getting at by saying all this is that I think, at least for the American people, and it sounds like people around the world, everybody has reached that point now. They've reached civilization.
Yeah,
Human
come on.
beings have reached that breaking point. Like, enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
Yeah.
You know, we had in Australia, sorry, I interrupted there, but just before we switch thoughts, we had, so the top of Australia, North Queensland, far North Queensland, we had convoys that came down from there for this camp that we had that the authorities deceived people and got closed. But They were coming through towns, and there's video on the site there. Whole towns came out of the smaller towns in Australia, waving flags. I remember one lady was telling me there was a man there with a roll of $20 bills, and it just handing out $20 bills to every vehicle that came through, just thanking them. They had trucks that just got filled with food and all their needs, and they got down here, and it was just, there's another video I put on there of the spiritual side of this. It was just incredible, the spiritual movement that happened of unity. Now, you didn't see any of that on the mainstream media. There's, towns, they said, Scott, we had at 9 o'clock at night in the pouring rain, towns would turn out cheering for us as we came through. You can't tell me that there's not more for us than against us. When God's for you, who can stand against you? And they might cut their head off. They cut the head off, 10 more will rise up, because now the bull's out. The bull's bolted, as we say. It's out the paddock. Freedom's out the paddock. They can get rid of a Brian Brase and a Scott Russell, and there'll be 10 other Brian Brases and Scott Russells. And then they get rid of those 10, there'll be 100 others. Because what'll happen here is the bull's bolted. The bull's bolted.
No, we've had an issue where the government's trying to scare you into standing up now. Like they're trying to scare you from standing up. So we had the January 6th thing with our Capitol, and there was all mess there, and they try to, we still have people that are in jail with no trial, no bail, no date set for January 6th, which is a huge violation of their constitutional rights. But anyways, they use that as a scare tactic, and now they're doing the same thing in Canada. They're using Ottawa as a scare tactic for the Canadians, like the way the government reacted and all that. And we got told the other day that the reason they're blocking all of our exits, I don't know if you've been keeping track with our convoy train into DC. But they've been blocking all the exits and everything, and I talked with the local law enforcement and everything, and they told me, they finally admitted that the reason why they're doing it is that they're afraid of Ottawa happening in the United States. So because of something that happened in Canada, they feel it's okay to violate our First Amendment rights here in the United States. It's a major, I don't even think the weight of what's going on has settled yet in the United States or around the world. What that means, a law enforcement agency is literally violating our rights as Americans to protest, like stopping us from being able to do it. They are blatantly causing traffic accidents, risk to human life by what they're doing. They've lied to the media. They've lied to me personally on the phone. It's really quite a disgusting display.
You know what they did here, Brian? We had a camp which had, I don't know how many thousands of people in it, like you have there. And I mean, they came. It was that camp was in a place. That camp was
Somebody
in a place.
asked what I'm drinking.
I saw that. So that camp was near our Parliament House, so it was on public land. So when the police turned up to clear that camp out, they said, and there's video of this on there, they said, you are parking your cars illegally and you're not allowed to camp here. But there was nothing about trespassing. So I was just there as a set of eyes. I stood, I mean, I'll be honest, part of me wanted to leave when I saw the police because I'm like scared. And as I started to walk away, I thought, I can't do this. I just need to be a set of eyes. And I turned around and I went back. And I was just another set of eyes and a camera. And I stood there. And I mean, one of the things I saw was they never chased out the people because they weren't trespassing. It was public land. They were just getting rid of, they were rolling their tents up, throwing them in the back of a truck and all their belongings and dumping them. And then they were, chasing the cars out. And you can go to Epic, they were telling them. You can go and camp there. We've given you a proper place where you're allowed to camp. So everybody left trusting that and went to Epic, and it became a massive thing at Epic where it was just, the spirit there was just beautiful. People respecting each other, cutting each other's hair, free haircuts, free food, everything. It was just beautiful. I'm sure you're having that same spirit there. People would come and say, I just feel something told me I had to come. I had people coming up to me randomly and saying, I don't even believe in God. They said, but there's something's talking to me and it's telling me the truth. And when I listen to that truth, it works out. I think it's God. What do I do? And I say, well, you respond to that romance and do what you think you should do. But anyway, we get to this camp. Then after about a week to 10 days, the police say, well, we have the Canberra show coming in here. You have to leave. Well, hang on, you told us we could come here. But now what they've done is they've got everybody on private land. So they said, now you're all trespassing. If you don't leave, we'll arrest you.
Yep.
And so what they've done is on the public land, they couldn't arrest the people unless they committed an offence. But now they've got you on private land, they can arrest you. And so they were able to then come in with their LRADs and all this crazy stuff. And they were only believing, I only saw them using it as a PA system, but it's still scary technology. When you've got tactical police and, I know in New Zealand, they actually used a lot of that stuff on their own people. But anyway, so the police got everybody to leave Epic, was the name of the place, the showgrounds. And then they have nowhere to go. This was after the initial rally, which Google crowd estimator said there was about 300,000 people at that, which for Australia is huge. Now, the media said there was lucky to be 10,000. So, of course, right? And they're all anti-vaxxers, which is absolute lie. Nothing short of just absolute lies. So after that was on a Saturday, I believe, from memory. The next day, and I personally witnessed it, campgrounds here that were legal campgrounds to be in and people with permits. Because I was down there talking to them. I was taking them food. Some of the locals were giving money and and buying things. I was driving loads of food down, feeding people, got cars serviced for people, did all sorts of things. I'm driving down there one night. There's 40 or 50 police officers in a line that walked through a legal campsite and ran everybody out of there, even if they had permits. So then they said that the camp was fully booked. So I drove down there to have a look. There's nobody down there. There's like 5 different campers down there. And those campers, the government runs the campsite. So they just say it's booked, but there's nobody there. So I went to the towns that were around where we are, 45 minutes out, an hour out, where there's campgrounds, private campgrounds owned by private individuals. The police turned up and there's video of that on there. The police turned up and told them, the owners, if you don't get rid of these freedom people, you're in trouble. And so I saw the squads where they pulled cars over with interstate number plates. They take, or tags you call them in America, they take the tags off the cars. I mean, they were terrorizing women, children. I mean, you imagine, you get pulled over and there's 7, 8, 9 police officers get out of a car, and I watched it, circle the man, and then just badger you, and you need to leave, you need to leave. If you camp here, we're arresting you. And they would arrest them, but then they drive them up the road, some of them, and let them go. But it's the scare tactic. And so they did everything they could to stop, and they still are. There's supposed to be another rally this weekend, and on Tuesday here, the 26th, was it, Jenny? The 20, whatever the date is here then. The AFP have issued a statement basically saying you can't camp anywhere in this facility, you can't camp in the surrounds without a permit, or you have to be in the proper campgrounds. But I know that because I watched it. The proper campgrounds are going to be booked out, but there'll be nobody in the proper campgrounds. Or the website will crash, and that was the other thing they were doing. The website was crashing, and you can't book you can't book a campsite.
So I'm not going to say it on here because of the powers that be that could be listening to us or watching, but I will give you some advice on that side of things based on my experiences of doing this. What I'll tell you is that we worked very hard multiple days in advance during the convoy. We had teams that were way ahead of the convoy, meeting with different private land individuals that had plenty of space and believed in what we were doing.
Yeah.
And that's the key. Find those places, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about it offline a little bit. I'll
And we
give you a little strategy advice. Yeah, I don't know if it works there or not. It works here, but I don't know if it'll work there. But
we probably should, if it's all right, Brian, because I got a feeling my battery wasn't fully charged, because this was a surprise one, and I'd hate for my battery to cut out halfway through. But maybe if you've got time tomorrow, maybe you can ask somebody. Let's figure out how to actually share this meeting properly, so that we can get people in watching it live, and then we could spend some time answering questions.
Sure.
But maybe over the weekend, either tomorrow or Sunday, whenever you've got time.
Sure.
For us, I think there's things going on. Yeah, we'll talk, and we'll schedule a meeting and send out a notification of that, and we can have a talk, and where people can actually ask questions if they like. I think that'd be great. But again, I'm so appreciative of our big brother, the good big brother, not the big brother of the state, but our big brother America, that's looking at the school bullies that are bullying your little brother Australia and New Zealand, and saying, "Hey, we see you."
I gotta ask. As a world history buff that I am, I know that England, basically started the colony of Australia against the natives, but sent basically their criminals to Australia.
Correct.
I can't believe that with that legacy or that history, that Australia would bend the knee like they have, and that it's been so hard to stand up and fight this. I feel like freedom runs in our blood.
Yes. Your country was born in freedom.
Run in your blood.
Your country, your country was born in freedom. Our country was born in oppression. And my grandfather had a good saying. He said, "There's none so blind as those who refuse to see, and none so deaf as those who refuse to hear." And I think here in Australia, it's, if anybody's not hearing or not seeing, it's because they don't want to see and they don't want to hear. Because there's so much information out there now about all of this. Anybody, you basically got to be living under a rock somewhere to have not seen it. And if you're not for freedom and you are not at these rallies, then you don't care for your children. You don't care for your children's freedom, because I promise you, history promises you, if you give your freedoms up, you will not get them again.
No. Once they're gone for good.
And because men get, and I believe the authorities are drunk on power. And when you try to reason with a drunk man, you can't. If you have a drunk man with a big stick and a gun and he's violent, he's going to hit you. And if you can stop there and talk and say, "Oh, I love you, please don't do that," you're going to get hit. So the best thing you can do is let the drunk man be drunk, because I believe, like, a demon feeds off a demon. So if you've got anger, you need to feed off somebody else's anger. It self-perpetuates. I believe that the authorities are feeding off our power. And if we do things that give them power, if we become aggressive, they feed off of that. They want that. But if you don't give aggression, they don't have anything to fight. And if we're smarter in what we're doing, and we come with love, and we come with freedom, and we come with joy, like you're doing in your camp, bands that are coming and playing music and songs that are coming out about freedom and life, you can't fight that, because the only energy you can feed off is love, joy, freedom, the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, kindness, gentleness. Against such there's no law against those things. So I think, and that's what I enjoyed about, as I watched you from Australia, you were smarter about what you were doing, and you weren't speaking aggression. You're speaking freedom, and you're saying, let's just celebrate freedom. Let's celebrate life, because there's not a person alive that doesn't want to celebrate that. But if we come in with aggression, they will feed off of our aggression, and it empowers them, and we just don't want to do it. Same with criticism. If we criticize them, they feed off criticism. We don't want to do it. Hey,
Right,
Brian,
right.
it's been wonderful talking, and let's reschedule another. We'll talk separately and offline here. We'll get texting and
Yeah,
things.
we'll talk some strategy. We'll connect on that front. Give you
Maybe,
some lessons learned on my end.
yeah, maybe.
And I did the same thing with Canada. You know, I talked with Pat King off off the camera. Actually, him and I never had the opportunity to do this. But I spoke with him, one of the organizers of Canada there, and kind of lessons learned. And of course I watched closely of the things that was going wrong on that convoy that had
Yeah,
happened,
yeah,
um, and took those lessons to heart in organizing and helping plan the People's Convoy in the United States, and I think it was a good help. And so, if we can do the same for Australia and New Zealand,
yeah.
gladly
I mean,
be a part of that process.
I mean, ultimately, I'm nothing here. I'm just some guy who's just
We're all
standing.
just some guy. We're all
Yeah,
just some guy. You know
that's
what? The people that organized Canada, it was the same thing. They were just people. They weren't
correct.
nobody. They weren't
And I,
somebody that, you know, and same with me, man. I never imagined in a million years that I would be thrust into the forefront of something like this. Never. But I guess God works in mysterious ways. I don't know.
he
And
does.
it's been very hard for me to accept. In fact, I stand there nightly and say, "Stop calling me the leader, because I ain't no leader. I'm I'm
Yeah.
I'm a I'm a co-organizer, and truthfully, I am just a co-organizer. I mean, there's so many that work
Of course.
behind the scenes to make this thing happen logistically, and you know, this is bigger than one person. This is bigger than any man, and you know, you'll discover in the coming weeks as you put something big together here, um,
Yeah.
just how many people have bad intentions that want to be
Maybe.
involved, but they don't have the best intentions, but they want to be involved. And then you'll find people that are pure of heart and that speak the truth and speak from the
And,
heart. So,
you know what I think too on that one is, you know, just like I was a pastor for many years in the US and things. So I'm not in organized religion currently, but I'm just in freedom. But I think I put a lot of faith in people because I do believe that all of us know when somebody has an agenda. They might get a lie on us once or twice, but ultimately you sense the spirit. And I believe most people can sense the spirit of people. And they know when somebody's in it for themselves. They know when somebody's in it with an agenda of death.
mm,
And I think that that's true freedom. You can sense it in people. Okay, isn't that true, Brian? And when you meet somebody, you sense, you know they're for freedom. They're not just talking a talk. You know it's who
yeah,
they are. It's not, and I like that saying we say, is, you know, we don't do to be freedom. We're not doing this to be freedom. We are freedom, and we do out of that. Hey, my battery's
yep,
about to die, so I'm going to have to go. But we'll organise another one, and we'll be texting. Have a good night's sleep, and thanks for that. Huh?
you too. Thank
God
you. Love you, Australia, New Zealand. Hold the line.
Yeah,
America's got you.
thanks. I think you have to
All
hang it
right.
up, my friend.
I do. I do have to hang it up. Y'all be
Uh,
safe out there. Take care.
thank
God bless.
you.